We're live. Welcome back, everybody, to the PEO Speedwagon podcast. I'm your host, Rick Johnson, as always, joined by our founder of PEOMG, Ryan Shapiro. Happy to be here. Happy to be back.
Yeah, new set, new location.
Yeah.
It's kind of a rustic theme for the fall selling season that we all know and love here in the world of PEO.
Yeah, as I think the Gen Zers would say, it's giving Jackson Hole. That's what they'd say.
Why giving?
You say like it's giving, like it's so the Gen Z terminology is that like it's it feels like. So it would be like it's kind of giving me the vibe of. They've just shortened that now to it's giving.
Giving Jackson Hole.
So it's giving Jackson Hole. It also get a little fireside chat.
Yeah.
I feel like FDR, like talking to the people about the PEO industry and the sales environment right now and business owners and everything. So
That's right.
It's our equivalent.
This is. And this thing is putting up some serious heat. That is, for those watching at home, it's hot.
Yeah. Also, what's kind of funny is this is turning into the moments where we get to sit down and like take a minute because we're running around so much this time of year that it's almost like these podcasts are a moment for us to take a breath and then talk about and digest everything. So they're becoming more enjoyable.
Yeah. I mean, the rapid pace that is the fall selling season, fall campaign, code, pumpkin chucking season.
Pumpkin chunking, yeah.
Chunking season. It's in full force. It is true. I mean, because the show is a lot of your journey of learning the world of PEO. That is kind of the whole motif of it, and we're doing a whole lot of that right now with so many companies evaluating this, so many worksite employees being evaluated as a part of their PEO relationship. It's moving pretty fast. So it is kind of nice to stop and do this and sit by the fire and talk PEO, because it's not as if we're not talking about it all day, but it's just different, and that is nice.
Yeah, no, it certainly is. And last season doesn't really compare to how busy we are this season in terms of just sheer number of folks we're talking to and renewals we're dealing with. And so, it definitely is nice to get some time to reflect and look at some of the trends in the industry that are going on and what's unique about this fall selling season and what we're seeing. And so I'll kind of throw that up in a question back over to you, which is, what do you feel about this fall selling season? What are you noticing, and are there any major trends?
It feels familiar in some ways, right? It's the fast pace. Last year, I mean, we're celebrating this month our 1-year anniversary, and it's been an incredible year. That's not what this episode is about. But like when the business started last year, we didn't have the preamble that led up to it in the way of building pipeline like PEO sales forces do in, the summer months, kind of with the expectation of it to build up. And also what the sales leaders at PEOs all across the country, for reps who are struggling in that desert that we referenced, in one of our interviews recently, is that just wait for the fall because things will pick up. It always does. So we didn't really have that. We kind of just started in the fall. So we didn't have that jet stream with it. We were already riding the momentum, and while we were able to have a great finish of the year and work with a bunch of clients and have them come on board, now it feels like the fall selling seasons of the past. That's what feels familiar. It also feels familiar because once every 4 years is an election year, and that always kind of has a little bit of an impact on the PEO and just SMB and economy in general. So feeling some of that, a lot of those similar dialogues to what was 4 years ago and 4 years before that, the question marks that are out there. But also that employers, what is also very familiar is employers are struggling with a couple things. One, balancing everything they have to do. And whether that's within a PEO that isn't the right one for them because they got misaligned to the wrong one, it's not actually solving the issues, or if they're doing it, with disparate systems and service providers, and now they need a better way. Like the cup has runneth over, and now they're looking for solutions and staring down the barrel of the end of the year and into next year. They're ready to take action.
So some familiar pieces, but that's a tale as old as time right there.
Right. Yeah. But for us, it's a little bit different because we're approaching it a little bit differently with the whole weight of 16 different PEOs and really kind of focusing on different things versus just focusing on one PEO solution. So that part definitely feels different from what I've experienced in the past. Um, Working with a lot of partners, working with a lot of senior executives within these PEOs to find the right structure for these customers is a different kind of conversation versus working directly with one customer or working directly with the sales force that I might have led in the past.
Hmm.
That's very different. Um, and I mean, frankly, the velocity of meetings is very different. What you and the rest of the team at PEOMG is be able to create in terms of opportunities is never been the volume that I've worked at. And so that's been an interesting test to do all that. So kind of to your point, like getting to sit down for 2 minutes and talk shop um, is actually a nice little breather.
Yeah, and this actually ends with you having a meeting right after. So yeah, you're
Yeah,
stacked today.
yeah, we're
Uh,
tight,
we're
right
tight.
on
Yes, we're
time.
tight. But no, I mean you're right. You talk about how not only in a normal PEO sort of sales environment, like you have to deal with just the clients
Hmm.
themselves and trying to find how you fit with them. But in our scenario or PEOMG scenario, you also have to look at the 16 partners we have that are PEOs themselves, and you're trying to do discussions with them about everything that's needed to make sure the alignment is going to go well and the
Hmm.
documents needed, and then the same side on for the client, making sure you're able to get everything you need from them. And then in addition to that, having a calendar full of meetings, having the most PEO
Right.
experience at the same time, that's certainly going to be coming at you from really three different angles
Yeah.
and be pretty much a
And a
lot.
new one, I mean, I was all involved in this in the past, but when you're with a PEO, there's a large account management department that's kind of dedicated to this function. There's not at our smaller organization, which is managing the renewal process. And so we've had a number of clients renew here over the last 30 days for their coming year of their PEO, which is fantastic. And had a 100% renewal rate on those groups. But like there is work that's got to go into that. Not only the preparation and the understanding of what the increase was and what perhaps the PEO is attempting to do and raise the administrative fee, but just making sure that we're giving our clients our
Yeah.
best, and so that's an added thing and that I didn't have to do quite at the same level. And
Yeah. It's also been cool that we're able to look back on now at this point is that some of our early clients have grown. I think that's really, really a cool thing to see that when we speak with them and they say, like, here's our plan for the year, and we're able to put them in a PEO, that then
yeah,
they actually do execute on that and they grow and they say, here's, 5, 10 new people that we
right,
brought on board thanks to you guys and because of the PEO that we were able to partner with. So that's been really neat to see everything
yeah,
kind of full cycle.
yeah. I mean that is one of the coolest things because that's a byproduct of success for that organization,
Yeah.
and there are material ways that the PEO that we've helped them find and that the PEO on the work that they've done themselves has contributed to that. And like
Mhm.
that's what it's all about. I mean, a PEO is an incredibly powerful solution to drive a business forward further and faster than they could on their own, addressing the human capital and HR elements of it, but nonetheless helping it drive forward faster. So when we have those conversations, some that have renewed and grown significantly, some that have grown incrementally, but the fact that they can attribute that to the support they're getting from their PEO, and by extension, PEOMG, by helping them find that one that is going to help them grow, has been really powerful. And it's very rewarding, especially as we turn over the clock on year one to go back, like, what did we do? And that
Mhm.
was meaningful. And helping one small business grow and prosper would have been more than enough. And we've been able to, frankly, do a lot more than that.
Yeah.
But to be able to enjoy and kind of celebrate that impact is really cool because that is that's what we're doing, helping people grow. From that growth, people prosper, people's lives are enhanced, and that's that is the underlying thing that I think just grips people in this industry.
Oh yeah, and growth for ourselves too. I mean, we talked
Sure.
about the sheer volume of meetings we get on the calendar and we
Yeah.
take on a daily basis. And I think what's unique about it for us too is sometimes we take a number of meetings within a single month that you've expressed to me might be what an entire branch or something of a PEO
Sure.
in a city takes. And so we get a unique perspective where not only as a consultant in the PEO space do we get to see all the different PEOs we work with from a top-down view and how they work, but we also get to speak with a massive number of business owners at the same time who are telling us about their needs, and we can kind of see the market as it changes with the seasons. And so as we get into and we're in the fall selling season, what have you noticed has changed in the conversations you're having with business owners?
Yeah. I mean, one, there is a level of focus that they have,
Mm,
especially come as you compare to some months where they're working on their business, but maybe they're actually taking some time for themselves. They're doing some vacation. Their kids are home. Just other competing priorities that very rightfully they have the opportunity to spend some time and energy on.
yeah,
Now there's this focus, right? Q4 is the biggest quarter of the year for a lot of business in terms of sales and growth and kind of how you finish the year as a platform for how you go into next year. And so you see that. And so now they're making more time and energy and space for these really meaningful people conversations that we're having.
yeah,
That is one. Two, I'm starting, it's nice to see it. It happens every year. This is also something that's not changed, is the aggressiveness of the PEOs themselves to create a customer through pricing the admin, pricing the medical. You're starting to see that come back. There's this kind of, a little bit of hesitation to do that in the summer. They're not growing as much. They're not as aggressive, knowing full well the fall is coming. So now,
mm,
seeing in some of the companies that we have taken on and leading them through evaluations, the PEOs that we're working with are getting aggressive because they want this business, especially because they're really well aligned. It's a great fit client for the PEO and the customer. And increases suck.
yeah.
Like they're getting them. Um, we're seeing them out there. 18, 32, 9. Nine's probably one of the better ones. So companies are really struggling under the weight of these healthcare cost increases, and so they're scrambling, right? They're scrambling to figure it out, and they need guidance and they need support and a little bit of affirmation like the moves that they're going to make are the right ones
Yeah.
because so often this feedback loop that business owners have is either with themselves or with somebody trying to sell them something, and so it's always hard to know, like, am I really making the right move for our people? And so um, we've been it's been you've seen an accelerated rate of discussions come up because these healthcare costs are just out of control, and there is really, and you're seeing people who have taken, this is another one,
Yeah, yeah.
people have taken vehicles to try to get away from these cost insurance increases with like level funded plans, are now in it a year or maybe 2 years and are going like, this really isn't great. Like this isn't a great product. This isn't working the way I thought it was. Like this creative concept of this hybrid between fully insured and self-insured, like it's going to help me. And we're unfortunately seeing a lot of companies trying to now get back out of that.
Hmm.
And frankly, the PEOs have a hard time evaluating them because there's just not a lot of data in these things too. So, um, helping, there's this desire for companies to kind of get to a much better state on the health insurance piece.
So help me understand, when people are in those level funded positions, things could happen within that year that then by the end of the year they look back and say, like, we're looking down the barrel of a very high
Yeah.
potential renewal with it, and so then they
Mhm.
reconsider a
Right.
PEO as an option.
Right. So, I mean, very simple answer. You got fully insured products. They operated like everybody thought. Like you pay a premium,
Right.
you have claims, you figure it all out. It's easy. You have
Yeah. You
self-insured where you
admin.
are managing all the
Yeah, you do the
claims
admin and yeah.
and all the, yeah. And then level funded is this kind of go between where you're supposed to get the best of both
Mm,
worlds. And the thing people always loved about self-insured plans at a very simple level is like, I'm betting on this. I'm actually getting to take, like, I'm getting to put a hand on the wheel, if I will, about how these, if I have a good year, like I'm going to reap all the benefits.
hmm.
And a level funded was supposed to give you elements of that, but it was also supposed to give you elements of the very safe, protected version of a fully insured product.
Right.
And now, whether it's, hey, just things you couldn't anticipate, like major claims on the plan, or the fees were created too low to get people into these level fundeds, and they're not actually, um, they're not gathering enough premiums to offset the risk appropriately. Now you're seeing people getting big increases, and they want out.
Interesting. Okay.
Yep. So, I mean, that part is happening, and it's adding a layer of complexity in the PEO world because if you're a PEO sales rep and you're sitting down with a business and you're starting the process of like, we're going to gather the data, we're going to start to create this profile of your organization from costs on not only taxes and workers' comp and administration, but also the health insurance piece. And then you find out like, okay, so tell me about your health insurance program. And they go, yeah, we're level funded. Now the list of like data that you had together that was this long is now this long.
Yeah.
And there is, it gets into underwriting. They go, well, we just clicked over a month. We'd love one more month's worth of claims. And that just becomes frustrating. It adds to the uh, already challenging process that PEO data collection is. And so if you're a PEO rep, I experience this, myself because I just want it to be easier for our clients. You find out they're level funded, and you're like, all right, it just got a whole hell of a lot harder. Let me arm you for what we're actually going to now need.
Hmm.
And so it's not going away. Level funded is now a product that is here to stay, but we're just seeing a little bit of this. It's kind of a rebound from a lot of companies moving into it to now a certain amount and wanting to get back out of it.
Yeah, it feels like the people are trying to fill those best of both worlds positions. I think it makes me think of like PEO light options, right?
Mm-hmm.
We've talked about that before, where you can have essentially the a la carte, choose what you want from the PEO rather than the all or nothing style. And
Right.
we even mentioned, sometimes that depends on if the PEO wants to have that or not. They're not all offering that, but again, it's trying to fill in those areas where there might be a market for organizations that aren't quite ready for a full-blown PEO.
Right.
And it sounds like it's the same thing, but for folks that aren't ready for an entirely self-insured plan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And our guest, our last guest, Brian Neal was talking about, as a PEO customer and a client of ours, like the current process to get this is just a wildly inefficient model.
Hmm.
Like even on his way to becoming a PEO customer, before we started working with him, he came to see like it's just very inefficient. You have one sales rep come in, you get this whole process, you get all this data, and then you look, and then if you want to look too, you got to do that all over again, right? And so I think about that this time of the year when there are those competing priorities. You have a truncated window of time through the end of the year where you got to go get a whole lot of stuff done that has nothing to do with PEO, and then you layer on top of it a PEO process. And now you happen to have gotten yourself into a level funded plan, and now every month more data comes out, which I understand underwriting groups desire to have the most fresh data. So it's almost like you have to make a decision fast so you can stop the underwriters for asking you for more information, which doesn't lead to a good decision.
Yeah.
Rushed timelines. So it's that's another thing that feels familiar. It's challenging for small business owners to make this decision, and that doesn't really change year to year. It seems to only get worse to a degree.
Yeah. It makes me think, working on your team at a non-PEO organization, and I was in sales underneath you, and we talk about how you always need to set the next meeting. And for us then, it was only like one or two additional meetings that you
Right.
need to have. But now working with you in the PEO space, and there's many meetings and demos and things like that that happen when you evaluate a single PEO on your own. I'm really starting to understand why you have kind of this idea around like interest over time and slowly goes
Yeah.
down, and you need to like make sure you have your next meeting set because there could be
Yeah.
6+ meetings sometimes if you're the PEO speaking with these organizations.
Yeah.
And then of course they have to evaluate multiple, but it's just it's kind of funny to see where that drive
Right.
to be like we have to make sure we get that next meeting booked
Sure.
came from.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You have to get it, and I can empathize with if you are a CFO who has just sat through three of these things, and at
Mm.
the end, they all do it. They all do it in a very similar version. They want to set the next step. It's usually like the tech demo, like that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
the thing. They're almost caught off guard by the fact people don't want to see their tech. It's not because they don't want to see it. It's because holy crap, I just did three of these things, and they were all booked for an hour long.
yeah.
They all ran about 95 minutes long. It was all important information, but
Almost the same thing.
almost the same thing.
It's very similar.
Um, there was the same joke about the marketplace perks,
Hmm.
whether it was the 2-for-1 Culvers or the Disney points or the
Pulling up your pay stub or
right, yeah. So all the same anecdotes
yeah.
over and over again, and then at the end they all go like, "What do you want to schedule a tech demo?" And I can get it where the guy or gal's like, "Let's just wait a minute, like let's just like." Not because I'm not interested. I just need a breather.
Hmm.
And I think the PEOs get it. It's not like we work with great PEO sales reps and PEO leaders in these deals. They understand, and then they have us as an outlet to kind of do a pulse check, like are they actually okay?
Yeah.
Interested, not interested. But it's just a lot, and it's there's a better way. This is not a shameless plug. There are better ways to do it. And I think, under recognition of what that business owner, business leader, decision maker is going through this process is really important.
Yeah.
Just make it easy for them.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Well, it's a busy season here, and we've got meetings to go get to and take and run. And so, what do you have for the folks out there that are in this fall selling season? Where should they kind of keep their head at as someone who ran a good chunk of the country for a large PEO? What do you say to your people right now?
Yeah. It's the things that I would remind people of is that you have an opportunity to go do something that's going to make a difference in a business. Like operate with that top of mind. It's Don't think of it like I got to hit my president's club or chairman's club or trip qualifying deals. Like just go like let me go just go do something really meaningful and helpful to a small business owner and a team of employees. Two, do not, as your pipeline grows this time of year, which hopefully it is swelling for everybody, like it certainly feels like that way for us. Do not relent on your prospecting behaviors. Like that's for all the sales leaders and like a little bit of a nod to you. And the reason is not because just prospect for prospecting's sake. There will be opportunities that will run payroll in January that show up on December 6th. Like it just will. We all know it, and every sales leader in these PEOs are trying to demonstrate that for their sales teams, and it just is a truth, and it just is a reality because somebody will decide too late,
Hmm.
or somebody will get a March 1 increase that's way too big, and they can move even sooner and get on a calendar year. There's just a whole host of reasons, and so you have to be active. Like you have to, again, something Brian Neal said, like give yourself a chance to get lucky. Like putting those opportunities out there for someone to respond to you is really key. Um, and then three is just be transparent about this process that they're about to go through. I just left a meeting. Our partner in that particular meeting did a phenomenal job of just laying out what the next 4 to 6 weeks are going to look like as part of this new customer that we're going to have. And they've got a lot going on, but the four people in this room, the executives of this organization, were able to discuss like how they would handle it and who would handle what. And
Yeah.
and there's this propensity for PEO sales reps to make it too easy and like not arm people. Like, yeah, it's gonna be fine. It's gonna be easy. We'll get it all. And we got benefit specialists and we got payroll specialists and we'll get you trainings and try to undersimple, oversimple.
Hmm.
Um, this time of the year, people can get these things done, and that will start with transparency and authenticity to what this processes look like, and they will make the decision to move forward because they've actually attached themselves to the impact your respective PEO can have on their business and their employees. They're really, so trying to maybe, understate what this transition is going to look like doesn't help anybody and just leads to a lot of bad implementations and then churn for the entire PEO industry. So, um, you know, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun. It already is for us, and I'm sure it is for everybody else. As people who've been picking up their first clients in the fall selling season. So it's going to be a good run here, and I think if you can cling to those concepts, you're gonna do great.
And if you stay tuned into the PEO Speedwagon podcast, you'll also do great with advice like that coming out of Ryan.
Yeah, there you go.
But yeah, and then we've had some great episodes, as you mentioned. We've had Jason Randall on, John Allen with
Sure.
GNA, Brian Neal, NFL referee and
Yeah.
founder over at Blind Zebra, and
Yeah.
so and many more to come. So we're going to
Yeah.
have more
We got.
guests on the show. Pretty exciting. We've got them lined up for maybe a few weeks out. I think is what we have,
Yeah.
and more people keep reaching out to join in, and so
Yeah.
yeah, these are going to
Yeah.
be
We love
a
it
lot of
because
fun.
I mean, frankly, one, it's a small layer of validation for us that this thing is anything of any value.
Yeah,
But two, it's for the people who do listen. Like you're going to get to hear other voices, right? And you, as the kind of the subject of this whole thing, like you're going to get to hear more voices outside of my own. And yeah, really powerful things to think about from Jason Randall and Questco and how he's grown that organization, and what John Allen has done and grown that organization, got it north of 100,000 employees, and then to like get a different perspective on the world of PEO, but just life and sales in general. And Brian Neal, who's just super dynamic, amazing speaker, and just, you know, I mean, NFL referee, it's super cool. So to be able to kind of bring more people into the fold for the Wagoneers and get to hear different people's voices and stories and the way they think about this industry is, if we just did that, maybe the people would prefer that actually. It would be less of this.
People in the PEO industry need it too, because we know that it's difficult to explain PEOs to your relatives, especially around the holidays.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, what do you do? Somehow it ends up just being about insurance, and you're trying to explain what a PEO is across the table, and you know, it's not going too well. And so that's personal experience.
That's a
Yeah,
personal
that's
experience.
that's personal.
Yeah.
What's a PEO? And I'm like, oh, I gotta gotta do the pitch right there.
It's a tough it's a tough, quick explanation.
Yeah, the joke is there's no elevator pitch in the PEO industry, which I disagree with. There is, but sometimes if somebody's completely unaware, you know, they have no clue.
Yeah,
and so they need somewhere to go to have a fireside chat and feel like, you know, it is an industry where people do podcasts about it.
So I'll tell a quick story. You'll probably cut this out. So I have a dear friend in the world of PEO, phenomenal executive, super successful, and he was telling this kind of story, like where it just becomes too much to like explain sometimes. You'll find that's not actually the reason he didn't explain it. So like his wife, he went to the Army Navy game, and it used to be that his wife, like in high school, dated this guy that now became a member of the Blue Angels. And so after the game, he and his wife got to go down the field and meet this guy, and he's telling the story of like standing in front of this man who used to date his, you know, wife 20, 25 years earlier, fully decorated, Blue Angels pilot, you know, just massive, you know, just kind of a massive persona to look at as you're standing on the 50-yard line at, you know, at the football stadium after the Army Navy game. And the guy was really kind, very effusive, and just said like, hey, you know, your wife has shared how successful you've been. It's, you know, it's really great. She's super proud of you. Like, what do you do? And he's just kind of staring at this guy. He's like, I sell payroll. And like, kind of walks away. But I don't think he had it in him for a couple of reasons, to explain it to this guy. But yeah, it's a tough one to explain. It's but there is an elevator story, and it all ends up residing with like impact. Like if you get into the weeds of like payroll and benefits and everything else, like yes, those are the things that happen. These are the services that are rendered in the PEO. But what you're actually giving is time, focus, and you're adding to the culture. And like, if you can connect the dots on the impact to these services and develop impact statements, which always occurs. Like if you can, it's easy to say like a payroll service is what pays your people and but like to create an actual impact statement to that, like why through a PEO a payroll is better and this is what it does, and it not only lifts and shifts the liability of the payroll and the compliance responsibility, but it's also much more streamlined and spiders across the entire organization, making it just accurate and easy for you to use and know that it's all right, and have experts on the back end that pull you out of it so you can focus on your business. Like developing impact statements for each of the element of your service model is the way you really do this thing. So
that's how you do it. I always just ask them what they do first, and then if it has to do with human capital management or owning a business, I just say PEO, and then if they don't, then we're in trouble.
Yeah. See if they're PEO aware.
PEO aware, and then we'll make them PEO curious.
PEO curious. That's right.
All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning into this episode, PEO Speedwagon podcast. We will catch you in a couple of weeks, I believe, with a guest. Thanks.
Go get them.